So it's looking like it could be a very late night for the Senate, as many Republicans are making the case for this skinny repeal bill, which would repeal parts of Obamacare. Joining us now is Republican Senator John Thune from South Dakota. Sir, thank you for joining us. What do you think is going to happen tonight?
I hope that sometime in the wee hours of the morning that we pass a bill out of Senate that will enable us to go to conference with the House of Representatives and start to relieve people from the burden of Obamacare, which has led to skyrocketing costs and collapsing markets. That's where we are today. We've got to do better.
You know, some people are saying that what you're voting on tonight is really more the idea of keeping the thing alive, moving it back over to the House so that they can work on it. What do you think that the final incarnation looks like? What could get enough votes?
In the Senate?
Yeah.
I think that you know, obviously this is just one step in the process.
Right.
But my guess is what we ultimately end up voting on tonight is something that does away with the mandates, the individual mandate, which requires people to buy insurance products that they either don't want or can't afford, and secondly, the employer mandate, which is a job killer out there in the economy. Those are the two sort of core items on which Obamacare is built. That's kind of the foundation, and so we would eliminate those and some other things that would give states more flexibility when it comes to designing plans that are better for their populations, and some of the things that are part of our discussions that have happened so far, but this is what we can do.
Yeah.
This is where we can get 50 votes for, and it moves the process forward.
But in the end, what do you think it looks like? I mean, not just coming out of the Senate, but when it goes back to the House, what do you think could get enough support to have real change?
Well, I hope we can get back to where we have a more fulsome discussion about repealing and then, you know, sort of entirely replacing the failed Obamacare model. And that, I think, entails some of the things I just talked about, getting rid of mandates, getting rid of at least some of the taxes, and also creating a refundable tax credit for people that they can buy insurance in the individual marketplace if they can't afford it. Hopefully some Medicaid reforms to make that program work more efficiently and make it more sustainable. And a lot of this will be shifting power and authority and, you know, flexibility back to the states, getting it out of Washington, D.C., and allowing the states where I think they can better manage these programs to have an opportunity to do that.
A lot of what you're saying makes sense in terms of getting rid of the mandates, because people, you know, who were healthy weren't buying the insurance anyway, so that money wasn't coming through to pay for it. But if the whole thing ends up the way you just sort of described, you do still need a lot more money in order to pay for the people that are using a ton of health care, who either have pre-existing conditions. Where do you find that money?
Well, there is money available, obviously, because what we're doing here in the Senate doesn't affect the taxes that are available to pay for some of these things, and it doesn't affect the subsidy structure that's currently in place. If we get a bill into conference, I hope that we can take on some of those issues and come up with a better way, because obviously what we have today simply isn't working. We know it's unsustainable. We know we've got to come up with a better approach, and I think that ultimately, if we can get this step tonight, get through the Senate, get into conference with the House, we can come up with a bill and a plan that does meet our objectives, which is to bring stability to the marketplace, get more affordability out there, and liberate people from these mandates, and which forces them to buy things that they don't want to buy.
Yeah. Sir, the House, of course, is supposed to go home for the summer recess. Do you think they need to stick around in order to keep working on this?
I think what should happen is, if we can get a bill out of the Senate, across the Senate floor sometime in the wee hours of the morning tomorrow, that it will set up a conference with the House of Representatives. If the House and Senate conferees can come to an agreement, then at some point both the House and Senate are going to have to be available to vote on that. And I guess my hope would be, Melissa, that happens quickly, because I don't think we have the luxury of time. The clock is ticking, and the Obamacare markets are collapsing. Insurers are setting their rates for next year. And I think there's just got to be a sense of urgency attached to this.
So I'm hearing you say everybody stay in Washington until you get further along.
I think until we get an outcome. I think we need to get a result. My guess is that could happen hopefully sometime in the month of August. If we can get a win here out of the Senate tonight, go to conference with the House, then I'm hoping that we can put together a plan and a bill that will get majority support both from the House and Senate and get on the President's desk. Okay. And let's start moving in a different direction, a better direction for this country.